and hit record. All right, I guess I got to start again now from recording, right? Hey, how you doing? This is Chris Black. This is Eclipse Spotlight. It's episode number 8, I believe it is. It's ES 8. Today is May 5th, 2026. It's also known as Cinco de Mayo, which is the 5th of May in Espanol, in Spanish. And for some of you like myself, who thought that Cinco de Mayo, May 5th celebration was related to Mexican independence, it is not. I will show you on my screen if I can get it in. I will share my screen and show exactly what Cinco de Mayo is. All right. And as you can see, Cinco de Mayo uh, commemorates the Mexican Army's victory over France at the Battle of Puebla, 1862. The holiday is often confused with Mexican Independence Day, which is celebrated on September 16th. Cinco de Mayo is the largest celebration of Mexican American culture in the United States than in Mexico. I thought that was interesting. Especially that it's bigger in the United States than it is in Mexico. Um, I can believe it, right? It's all about cerveza. See, and cerveza means beer. It's Spanish, but so Americans, we like to party, right? So any excuse to have a party, right? Cinco de Mayo, Juneteenth, whatever, right? We'll do it and we'll take it. Even when we should be taking other things instead of just holidays and party, right? This Black American, we're talking about the cookout, right? So I don't know if you can have cookouts. Cinco de Mayo, right? Maybe you can. But I do know that I was at an event earlier today with a woman who had a trifecta on Cinco de Mayo. She is a Latina. I'm not sure if she's of Mexican descent or not, but she's a Latina. Today is Cinco de Mayo, and today is also her birthday. So today was a very special day for her. I feel, a little privileged that she actually had the chance to. I actually had a chance to spend some time with her, among others, in a virtual meeting, because she was working on her birthday, right? But that's pretty cool, huh? When it falls. Oh, and it was Taco Tuesday, so it was her birthday. It's Taco Tuesday because this year Cinco de Mayo falls on Tuesday. It's her birthday, Taco Tuesday, and it's Cinco de Mayo. I mean, and she's a Latina, and I'm not sure. I'm not sure if she's Mexican or not, but I think she was. And so, I mean, that's like the Mexican heritage trifecta, right? Taco Tuesday, Cinco de Mayo, and you actually happen to be Mexican. So, happy birthday to her. Uh, if she ever gets to see this. Uh, but for me, Cinco de Mayo is because I'm, Black American, not of Latin descent, although I do respect everybody's cultural heritage. But significance for me is two things, or a few things actually. But the first one is that it's officially 7 days away from the May 12th election, municipal elections here in New Jersey, in Newark and in Irvington and other areas for mayor and council. So Newark is Mayor Rocca Rocca, and Irvington is Mayor Tony Voss. So that's going to be interesting, right? Especially because I used to cover all those areas as a journalist, as a reporter, and as also an editor. And right now, as a publisher, a content creator, I uh, I cover those areas but more, right? But I still am interested in what goes on in politics. I like politics. I think politics are not a good thing, but former Irvington Police Chief Michael Chase told me that politics happens between all people. If it's just two people in the closet, one person, there's politics going on, even if it's male and female, or if it's just two dudes or two kids, whatever. Two human beings in the closet, and there's politics happening. And his point was that despite the bad name and the connotation that politics gets, that it's really about people and humans interacting and things that come out of that in response to that, right? So it's just human politics is about people, baby, right? Literally and figuratively. But it's also significant to me because especially with elections in Irvington, because there's a woman. Her name is Elouise McDaniel. I like Elouise McDaniel. She's a retired Newark school teacher, but I knew her as the president of the Irvington Joint Block Association Coalition. That means she owned a home in Irvington, and she had a block association on her block where her house was located, the top of Chancellor Avenue in Irvington. And she was active in the community in the civic sense, meaning that she was involved in the government. Well, not involved in the government, but as a homeowner, somebody with a vested interest. Last time we talked with Kathy Witcher and Mike Spool, who was a homeowner in Irvington, and with Chief Chase, who still resides in Irvington. We were saying that Kathy Witcher lives here too. That this difference between renters and homeowners, and that in terms of how they approach civics and municipal involvement and public discourse in their communities, because they've got property, they've got cash on them, they got taxes, things like that, raise kids or whatever, right? And so Louise McDaniel was the president of her block association, but in her efforts to stay informed and inform her neighbors, and also be active in the community and to hold her elected officials accountable for the things that they did and did not do, or what she wanted them to do. She had her block association join forces with other block associations, because the old adage in democracy and in everything is strength in numbers, right? And we have mutual interests and we have shared concerns. So that's where the joint block association coalition comes from. The fact that Elouise was the president of her block association, joined forces with other block associations in Irvington, and she became the president of that joint block association coalition, and she led them and informed them and took the issues to the council meetings. So much so to the point that she became unpopular, because she was, as I mentioned before when I was talking to Kathleen, I was talking to Jason and others. I like it when people do their jobs that they're supposed to be doing. You have a job to do your job. You have an organization that you represent, and your organization is going to be about this thing or that thing or whatever, then do what it is. Form should follow function. Function should follow form. And she was interested, and she was active in her community. And I believe in civic engagement and involvement in public discourse, and people being involved, especially when you have a vested interest. But I mean, because you got to keep people honest. I'm not going to say bad guys or bad actors aren't bad, because that's why they're bad guys and bad actors, right? Bad being good. However, some people, if they know you're watching, they behave differently. Or if they know that somebody's going to be held accountable, they behave differently. Or if they have fear of getting caught doing what it is that they would shouldn't be doing, or they know they shouldn't be doing, or they have doubts about doing, right? And that's in a lot of things in life. Then it will make them behave differently and do different things. And so elected officials, if they know that they've got to answer to the voters every 4 years, every 2 years, whatever, you would hope that they would do things, because the voters going in there all for 4 years, you did nothing, you got to get out. But that's not always what happens in Jersey or America or in politics, either politics, even if it's local, it's all local, or worldwide too, because people get power, they like power, and they don't want to give it up. Larry Hamm of the People's Organization for Progress always says, power concedes nothing. You have to take it. And so as a homeowner who lives in a town, or if you just live on a block, you're a renter, you live on a block, at a block association, you don't want to get robbed, you don't want people to come by breaking windows in the cars, you don't want a lot of things to happen there. You got to get together and speak up and let your elected officials know, right? Because it's one thing that if they say, oh, wow, we weren't aware of this, I didn't know this was going on. Now that I know what's going on, we'll do something about it. But if I've come in and I'm telling you, and I've sent you letters, and I've complained this, and you still have not done anything to address my concerns, then that's a whole different matter, right? And so Elouise will never be guilty of that, right? Now we've got a concern, she's going to take it up and do something about it. And also, I like Elouise because I believe in protocol, meaning a proper way to do things, and procedures. And she does it the right way. She, his former teacher and educator, highly educated, right? I think she's got a teaching degree and a master's degree. Probably, I think she's like a couple of credits away from a doctorate. She mentioned one time, but very smart, and former Newark public school teacher too. But when she had an issue, she would go do her research. And so when she came to you, it wasn't just, knee jerk, and it wasn't just somebody angry in the moment. It was she had done what she needed to do to find out and followed up on it. And then also she had found out who to call and who to contact and who to report it to. See, that's the other real problem. You talk about voter apathy, but voter apathy comes from when people, it's like you go to the cops, you see a cop and say, hey, I got robbed. And the cop just sits there and look at you, say, I'll take a report, but doesn't go looking for the robber, doesn't go looking for your stuff, doesn't try to help you. And so what good was reporting the crime to the cop? Because nothing happened, right? You didn't get your stuff back, you didn't get robbed, and actually you kind of leave the situation, the instance with like a bad feeling about, the cops and how things work, right? And but that's the same thing, right? When you have public officers, elected officials, institutions, right? The town hall, the mayor, the council, public works department, board of education, this, whatever you want to call it. They've got rules, not just Robert's rules for how to conduct their meetings, but there's rules that they have to abide by in terms of how they do. You can't steal, you can't do this, you shouldn't do nepotism, you shouldn't do that. There are all these rules in place. And so if you catch somebody breaking the rules, you want to report them to somebody, and that's where the reporting comes in. With me, I report in a different way. I mean, I publicize it, writing stories and putting out content. But you report the issue to the proper authorities, right? But in New Jersey and other places, sometimes you report what's going wrong and nothing ever happens. And so then you go, what? And then also that makes people lose faith in democracy and the process. And they go, nothing's going to change. Nobody cares. And then they stop being involved. But that's not Elouise, right? She'll find an issue. Somebody will, or more often than not, somebody will come to her with an issue and say, oh, Elouise, because she became known as the person to come to, right? Elected officials, township employees, people. And she would always tell me, oh, you never believe, Chris, that people come to me and tell me stuff as this. People who were, they wouldn't acknowledge her in public, right? Because of the elected officials did not appreciate what she was doing and how she went about it, things, even though what she was doing was totally correct and legal and what you're supposed to do in a democracy, back in the democracy. But they would come and tell her stuff and give her tips and give her information and point her in the right direction. This because they knew that she would do something with the information they gave her, or they had no other recourse, or they were scared to speak out publicly for whatever, whistleblower, backlash, whatever. But and it was, it's a lot of people you would not think. You think, oh, they're all together, this. No. Well, yes, they are, but people get disgruntled and they want an outlet. They go look for that outlet, especially if they know that the outlet is not going to put them on blast and air them out and let everybody know that they came to them. And that's another thing about Elouise. She keeps secrets. She never snitched, right? She don't snitch. People come and tell her stuff. She don't, snitch. And listen, the administration, the elected officials, especially under the current mayor, they pressed her, right? They did not like it. They didn't like she getting meeting because they thought that their feeling was she was just being contrary to be contrary, causing problems to be cause problems, and that she's always going to have an issue even when there's no issue. And it might have seemed that way with her, but really, once again, people will come to her with issues and stuff, and she'd follow up. So it was real, in my opinion, as a reporter and also as a person, and who was watching what's going on. Stuff was legit, right? And then when she reported it, people would take action, right? News agencies and other stuff would get involved. State departments would send back notices. She had, and also she, as a teacher and an educated Black woman, she knew the value of paper trail and correspondence. And so, because you got to pin down, you don't have to just pin down your elected officials, but you got to pin down the people who are supposed to keep everybody else honest too. Because when you're in a highly political state like New Jersey is, right? And everybody's interconnected, right? All Democrats know each other, all Republicans know each other, Democrats and Republicans know each other, independents, everybody knows each other. And some people, they grew up together, went to school, they're friends, right? And so they don't want to get anybody in trouble, whether it's personal or professional. You never know. But still, you have a job to do. Your job is to do that, right? to me, it's like the Quando Rondo song, right? Anybody can get it, and that is, especially anybody can get it if you in a position. And that's my philosophy too. Do I do we clips, right? Yeah, get caught out there, bad acting or whatever, you can get it too, right? There's nobody above the law, or whatever. And then some people should get it, right? They need to get it so that they won't hurt anybody else or do anything or continue doing the bad stuff, right? That was not hurt other people, but also likely going to end up getting them in trouble as well. And so that's why I like Elouise, right? And so yeah, I left town. I don't work for the World Media anymore. Shout out to the Worrells, David, Nancy, all those guys. I like them. Right? The Republicans, though. Watch yourself. But what was I gonna say? But more things change, more they stay the same, right? You go away, you come back, and it's still the same old, same old. Except I was talking to Mayor Voss, also on his MTV, Mayor Tony Voss, MTV, right? Like you talk about branding, right? And he right now the only MTV is still relevant, right? But and he was saying, "Oh yeah, Elouise moved out of town," and he said it in an offhanded kind of way. But then he meant, knowing his history with Elouise and things that went down, because Tony Boss was, Irvington needed a strong leader, unifying force, and he fit the bill. He was not afraid to come in there with a strong hand, right? Still have a strong hand until everybody this, right? Because to be a leader in that way, right? For better words, no matter how you like it, right? Or you're not. Just if you're in the other end of leadership style, right? And but Elouise was not scared. She was not afraid, right? And she was right, And so she got into it, and then she ran for mayor herself. But then the politics of New Jersey politics and municipal elections and how important they are. Listen, just I don't want to say she always calls herself a little old lady, even though I don't think of it, but she really, she is. But she's a little, old woman, Block Association, want to run for mayor, probably not going to win against the big boys, right, in their organization. But yeah, listen, and this is also where you got to give MPP and these other guys and the Democrats, Republicans, whatever, who are in the machine or the organization credit. They take every threat seriously. And it ain't no, oh, we don't got to worry about him. Oh, really? Right? It's like the brand Nubian song. Punks jump up to get beat down. Opponents jump up to get beat down in Irvington, right? And then also in the rest of New Jersey too. And then generally speaking in politics, in general in American politics, also around the world. But Democrats, Republicans alike, independents too. But right? And so like I said, so she got pressed. And they used the power of the office in township municipality trying to get her, even though she didn't do anything wrong. But whenever they tried to press her because she had dotted her I's, crossed her T's, had a paper trail, and reported things the right way, there's nothing you can do, especially when you get to a higher level, the courtroom or something, which is where they went, right? And everything is in order. But the judge ruled against her, which I thought, to me, having watched that trial happen and watched what went down, that judge, because he was part of the machine too, right? And that's the kind of Democratic Party machine, right? Everybody, judges don't just get born. It's like you look at the Supreme Court now and people talking about they get appointed, right? And they get appointed by people who are their allies and friends and who like where they are, and they reciprocate, right? Oh, it's not quid pro quo, it's not whatever. But hey, once again, you're not a patron. You ever watch The Wire or some of these other shows and talk about who's your rabbi or who's your whatever, meaning who's got your back, who a higher level person, somebody with power and influence who's got your back. And judges, they get appointed. And so when they get appointed, they remember who appointed them, right? And they do the bidding. And so this judge, he ruled against her. He wouldn't let her run, ruled against her. The petitions were no good, even though they seemed good to me, right? And also, to me, his ruling, because judges get a lot of leeway, unless it's like, 3 strikes you're out, which is why people didn't like it, or the Rockefeller laws, which was mandatory minimum, things like that. There's leeway, right? The law is there, but the reason why you have it in part, why you don't use AI to decide cases, right? is you got a leeway. There's situations and things that come up, and then we get down to what's called the spirit of the law. Like with the Voting Rights Act now, they're going, oh, it's the spirit of the law that's being violated by the recent Supreme Court decision. But is it? Right? The spirit of the law. What is the spirit of the law? And so when it came down to the spirit, meaning what was the reason, even though the wording is the wording, and wording is very important in the law and legality of legal circles, right? Everything has to be worded properly, or if not, wording, win your cases, lose your cases. But I thought that the judge, when he ruled against Elouise trying to run for mayor and get petitions, nominating petitions, approved and processed, because even the township clerk at the time, Harold Weiner, shout out to Harold Weiner, he was a master clerk. And he's a white guy too. He had, lamb, he had chops on his thing, and he had, a mullet, long leg. Looked like a deep South guy, but he's white thing too. But Larry was, don't let the looks fool you. He was a professional, true professional. He was a township clerk. And in New Jersey, the clerks, even though they work in the municipal, they call the title is municipal clerk. They don't work for the municipality. They work for the state. They answer to the state. They don't answer to the local elected officials. And that is so that they don't have to go by the whims of who gets elected and who doesn't get elected. So you're a mayor or whatever, you can't press the clerk unless you got cause, because you're not really his boss. He's there to keep records for the state on behalf of the state. So he can just do his job. He or she can just do their job and not play politics if they don't want to. They don't have to approve stuff or whatever. And what it is, the clerk is important because it moves paperwork all around. If you're an elected official, a politician, bad actor, whatever, and you have control of your clerk's office, or you can do a whole lot of things. You talk about fast track this, sideline that. Yeah, that's where all the paperwork and stuff comes through. Any business that's got to come through, and I mean business in terms of filing paperwork and keeping records and this. Actually, got to go to the clerk's office. So if the clerk and the municipal government don't get along, or the officials don't get along, it's going to be a problem. But in New Jersey and the rest of America, with our long history of political, I don't want to say corruption, but that's what it is, right? And influence and whatever. We have what's called the Sunshine Laws, which is Open Public Records Act. And Open Public Records Act, Oprah for short, but it's also nicknamed the Sunshine Law because, the Sunshine Law is the shine, the light of transparency and hopefully accountability into those closed backroom deals, those dark places where people do those deals that they should not be doing or whatever, right? And that people don't know about it. But then, making side room, backroom deals and stuff, people getting screwed over. Well, you in New Jersey, you have the Open Public Records Act, or it's called the Sunshine Law, which is to shine light into those dark places so that bad actors, people who want to look bad or use law or whatever, can't get away with doing it. The public can go and look and see for themselves, and then you can find out, look at the public records and stuff. And so Elouise, I'm not gonna say she was a master of that, but yeah, she did it very well. She was very good at the paper trail and very diligent with it too, and knew the value of it. And that's why when she put those petitions in, she knew what she was doing. That judge who invalidated those, he just didn't want to let her run. Right? To me, he totally violated the spirit of the law when it came to those nominating petitions. Let me make sure it's okay. All right. So last time I was doing this and I hit the record button. And I lost a lot of good information from Wayne Smith, boy, stuff that was great. Some people wouldn't have liked it, but it got him in trouble, but it was good stuff, right? It's a missed opportunity on my part. But and so when Elouise was putting those requests for information, and the municipality didn't like what she was asking about, didn't want to let her know or anybody else know. They would, because they don't want to know. Because sometimes it's not that the information is bad, they just don't know what you're going to do with it. And the real question is, why do you want it? I want it because I can get it, right? I'm entitled to have it. The law says I can have it, so give it to me. And they go, nah, I don't really want to give it to you. You might take it and go do something with it, or start asking questions and make it uncomfortable, blah, blah, blah. Which is what it's all about, which is what it's supposed to do. And so Elouise did that. She got in trouble, but and she did get in trouble. And then they really tried. I tell you this, they really did try to press her, sending cops to her house, so she can't come to council meetings anymore because whatever, which was illegal. You can't do that. And when the ACLU finally got involved, they had to clear that all up because there's things that you can't do. But once again, an elected officials, and this is why people say, "Oh, no king," and it's specifically aiming at Trump. But people will do things, even if illegal or not, or you can or not. But if nobody says anything about them, or if everybody goes and follows the orders, like you talked about Nazi Germany and then their defense at Nuremberg, below on Netflix and watching this. I'm just following orders. When you go, really? So you shoot him in the head, you say, shoot him in the head? Well, right? That's why the American military, soldiers are required by law. If you feel it's an unlawful order, don't follow it. Right? Don't do it. He said, Private Black, go burn that village down. I'm going, why? And he said, because it's in the way. I don't feel like burning the village down. So what? Once upon a time, they shoot you. That's you can't do that. In the military, they shoot you. That's disobedience. You can't do that. But in the American Army, the most they can do is they'll arrest you, and then you got to go to jail, and then you go to your trial, and you got to explain yourself. So it's not a death sentence per se, but they encourage you not to follow what could be called an illegal order. Once upon a time, there was no illegal orders to order, and people followed them. And so, but that still goes on, right? Here in America, the land of the free, the home of the brave, right? And your town hall right near you. And it happened to Elouise. You're going to send a cop to a house with a letter. You're not allowed to come to the meetings anymore. And you go, what? I'm a taxpayer. I'm a citizen. I own a home. I'm a professional. I work as a teacher. What are you talking about? I haven't broken any laws. Yes, you have. Right? And then they actually send the cop to do it to seemingly to have a cop deliver it to put an extra level of threat and menace to it. Oh, the cops! A lot of times people, the cops get showed up, and now, oh Lordy, right? That's always the response they want to get from us as Black Americans, right? Descendants of Black Africans that were kidnapped, raped, robbed, tortured, enslaved, kidnapped by other Africans, right? And sold into slavery. But yeah, they always want you to go, oh Lordy. The man is coming to get me. No. You get scared, right? We got a lawyer. And then she went to court. And also she got some help from the ACLU. But I say all that to say that I like Elouise McDaniel. And so I'm going to show you this clip because even though Tony Voss told me, Mayor Voss told me that she's no longer living in Irvington, I was going, wow, I like her. And I told him, told everybody, I said, I liked her. I liked her because she did what she's supposed to do as a resident, a taxpayer, and a concerned citizen to get involved in the community active law. And also, I'm going to show you this. So it turns out that the Sunshine Law, once again, it's local in Jersey. It's called Open Public Records Act, but it's across America, right? And there are other people in different places who also go through these issues with the Open Public Records Act because there are people who do things they don't want anybody to know because they don't want to have to answer questions about the things that they've done. But that's what the Oprah request and the Sunshine Act is for. Entitled to have this information, right? And so Elouise was recently, I think it was March 17th, she was recently honored or invited to participate in a national sunshine called a fest. I guess it's an annual event called Sunshine Fest, where these college officials and journalists and other people who aren't interested or have an invested interest in the Sunshine Law, Open Public Records Act movement, and just being transparent so that citizens can access government information and records to use for their own benefit or edification. And they get together and they talk about stuff and the sport, and that's a good thing. And so they found out about Elouise, and also I think one of the organizers is writing a book, and she putting Elouise in her book. So here you got a little old, when she describes her as a little old lady, a retired school teacher from Newark, right? Joint Block Association president, local Block Association president, active in the community. and she's up there on. They brought her down there to speak on a panel about the Sunshine Law, and so I found out about that. I gave her a call. I thought I was reminiscing about her with Mayor Voss. I gave her a call, and I got lucky. She answered. She called me back, and even though she's no longer in Irvington, she's still Elouise. I had her record still on. I still have and I told her I still have a bin full of information that I got from her and leads that I got from her when I was a reporter covering Irvington, right? Actions that she started, things that she started. Started with correspondence and reporting and keeping records and things like that, and using making a request for records from the municipality and also the state and rural, right? So she was very active, and so I respect that because everybody worried about it. Oh, we don't have no kings and this is this. Listen, man, if you want to have a democracy, even though America's not a democracy, it has never been for Black Americans. Once again, descendants of Black Africans enslaved, kidnapped, raped, robbed, tortured, slave. It requires participation, right? You can't have a passive democracy. You can't have I don't say victim, but you just can't have it. I mean, you got to be active. If you want to keep, you have to keep people honest. You can't just trust that they're going to be honest and keep their word. Hopefully they do, right? But most of the time they don't. And so, but you have to keep them active, and to have an active, vibrant democracy, that's what you got to do. You got to participate, and participation means getting out there, making open requests. Larry Hammond has got to be this marching and protester, but also you got to be in those rooms when things happen and asking questions. Those meetings, you got to go out, protect yourself, protect your community, protect others, and so you have to be active in it. And so that's what's required. And so for all these people, we don't want a king. Listen, man. If there ever king ever comes along in the United States of America, then that's because the people allowed that to happen. This is not Rome. It's not ancient Rome where Caesar, their system was set up for Caesar to seize power because of how it had degenerated down the line, right? It went from a republic to an empire. And there are people who think about America as in the same way. Oh, we don't know this. But no. For that to happen, even with Nazi Germany, with Hitler, right? A lot of things did go wrong. That's why he was able to get in there in Germany and take them there. The Depression, also World War II. A lot of bad things, even though it did not justify or warrant any of the crazy actions he took once he got there and in power. But stuff happens for reasons, and so a lot of things would have to go wrong in the United States of America for a king to be crowned. By the people, for the people, of the people, the king of the people, and even there for the people, right? And so the system had to have a total breakdown. And so that's what people are really saying when they talk that no king stuff, right? But as Larry Hamm of the Organization for Progress will tell you, power concedes nothing. And also power is there to be used. So people were concerned about Trump or whatever, whoever else, it would be a local elected official, like Elouise was concerned about Mayor Voss and others. And before Mayor Voss, Mayor Wayne Smith, and Council President Diva Lopez and others, and John Sowell, right? What are you doing with that power, right? Because who wants power but won't use it? What good is having power if you can't use it? Or if you don't want to use it, or you don't know how to use it, or you just refuse to use it, right? And that's a lot of the fear that people have. To me, it seems with Trump is that they know he's going to use it, right? The problem with Obama was he had all that power and chose not to use it, especially not for Black Americans who were descended of Black Africans who were raped, robbed, kidnapped, tortured, and enslaved. Right? So, what good was that for Black Americans? Nothing, right? But anyway, I digress. So here, I'm going to show you this. I'm going to share the screen, and I'm going to show you Elouise McDaniel. I believe is in Washington, D.C., down in Washington, D.C., participating in a forum about open public. And I'm hoping, because I talked to Kathleen, that after I share this and after I do this, because this is like my preview show, I'm going to have her on here, and I'm going to talk to Elouise, and you guys can see what a tough Black woman, tough, intelligent, motivated Black woman looks like. It ain't Shaquita from the projects. So, so here, let me go here. Let me get to this. Let me share here. Let me click over here. And let me press play. This is all available on YouTube. So it's Sunshine Fest 2026 plenary. FOI champions. FOI is Freedom of Information champion. And so this guy's going to introduce it. I'm going to try to be selective. But if you look at this, the free screen, this is Elouise right here. Elouise is when you look at it, is third from the left. She's sitting there and she's got a gray or a dark jacket, and she's got a white shirt on with collar, sitting next to the white woman who's looking like this. But that's Elouise, third from left. All right, and we'll get to her. But I'm going to play this so you guys can see. I thought it was great. I'm glad she's getting some recognition because I've always planned to give her a spotlight on my podcast and whatever, because this is what it takes. You got to be like Elouise, man. Especially for us Black Americans. We need more Elouises. Yeah.
Coming back. You all survived the tornadoes, everybody? Everybody good? Everybody safe? It looks like not everybody's here, so maybe not everybody survived, but hopefully we have none today. Welcome back. Good morning. Happy St. Patrick's Day.
St. Patrick's Day. Down the Irish. What's that?
And we're going to have a great second day. We have posted the new schedule online. I think I sent it.
I'm going to try to fast forward past this guy.
And the local heroes fighting back. She worked at the Washington Post as an editor and reporter on the Metro desk, has conducted research on freedom of information, and is vice president of the DC Open Government Coalition. So she's the perfect one to moderate and lead this conversation with our four.
That's not Elouise.
So with that, Miranda, please take it away.
Thanks, Dave, and welcome everybody. I think you've heard all the laments. We saw some of the data that were produced yesterday, which is that users of open records laws are generally older, white, male, and of course businesses, as we all know, are the big users. So what I want to have you understand and enjoy today is the idea that this is also what the FOIA world can look like. And these folks are both, we have two, in my book I call accidental activists. These are not people who signed up for this. They get into this because something goes wrong in their communities and they decide to peel back the information and try to find out what's going on. And then we have two young journalists who are, and I mean young. Isabel was a freshman in college and she did a lot of her FOIA work while she was in high school. And Alex, who is a senior, right, at Michigan State, he did a lot of FOIA work in high school too. So there's a lot of hope for the future of FOIA. I also want to point out yesterday that the former head of the Mexico Instituto Nacional de Acceso a la Información, Blanca Lilia Ibarra, spoke in Margaret Cuoca's session yesterday, if you didn't hear it, and she said that in Mexico, the users of FOIA are considered elitists, and I think that's also a problem we have in the United States. These folks will tell you their stories, and then we're going to speak a little bit among ourselves, have a little conversation, and then I want to open it up to audience questions, because I think that's where we can also have a discussion. So first up is Elouise McDaniel, and she was from Irvington, New Jersey, where she did her open records work. She is a retired school teacher, and I know my legs, how old you are? 86 years old. So I'm going to have Elouise start off and tell you her story, and we're going to try to keep these to 5 to 7 minutes apiece so that we have plenty of time to converse with you in a month or so.
Be patient. 5 minutes, Elouise.
I will outline if I have time at the end, and I'll come back and screen a little bit. But I was curious and worried about how taxpayers' money was being spent in my town. That's Irvington, New Jersey. I knew about Jersey government laws from some work I had done in 2024 when money was spent for Irvington mayor legal expense when he was not sworn in as mayor and he did not have a job in town hall.
That's what pissed Tony Voss off.
I put in an open request for that, and I received from the open request, they stated that they didn't want their cost to go $75,000, but in the end, it went over $100,000 of taxpayers' money when he was not the mayor and didn't have a job. And so here's what I did. I filed open requests, and here are the problems I encountered. Information blockade. I got some help from the League of Women Voters. They heard about some help. Okay, I got that from the League of Women Voters, and they heard about me and my effort because of news coverage or some other reason. I discovered that the rent leveling board of the township did not seem to really exist. Yet the business administrator collect $140,000 stipend for his work.
That's after Mayor Voss got elected.
I was intimidated, harassed, and not given time to speak. When we went to council meetings, the mayor would come in every council meeting when it was supposed to be for the citizens to come in and voice their concerns about the township issues. The mayor would bring in a group and have them sit, and when someone got up like myself to speak, and they would clap, yell, scream, and drown you out. Therefore, we couldn't, get anything done through that. And it was difficult, very difficult. So the results of all of this is the public found out about the mayor's problem, mismanagement of funds. And when they did, the New Jersey State Comptroller's Office, they wrote an article and they got in touch with the governor at that time and asked the governor and the Department of Community Affairs to come in and monitor Irvington finance because it was in disarray. And I don't know what happened with that. I didn't read anything else about the governor and the Department of Community Affairs sent someone out to monitor the town. They should have, because we needed it.
I want to pause right there because I remember that I was covering the town when that happened. And what it was is this is a shout out to deceased former state senator Ron Rice and also deceased Northwood Councilman David Lyons, because the state did send in the comptroller. They sent somebody in to take a look through the municipality's books. But I don't think that was Tony Voss. I'm not sure if that was Tony Voss. That was back in Wayne Smith, I believe, when they came in for that. I don't remember the state and anybody else after that. But when they came under Mayor Voss, who preceded, who was the mayor before, they came under Mayor Wayne Smith, who was the mayor before MTV, Mayor Tony Voss right now. Yeah. they came in and looked at the books and they said they didn't find any. The state came in. They didn't find any by any wrongdoing, but they told Fahim Raouf, right, who was the CFO. They said, "Listen, dude, you're not keeping your books. You're not maintaining your records according to the standards that we, the state, set. We say you're supposed to do it this way. Follow the rules." But from what I understand, Fahim, those guys, this is the way we do it, and this is how it gets done. The Board of Education did get the state. They had complaints about the Board of Education, and the state did send. His name was Frank Sinatra, and it wasn't the singer. He wasn't from Hoboken either, I don't believe. But they sent him to take over the Irvington Board of Education when he was the Board of Education president at that time. They sent Frank Sinatra in, and he took over the Board of Education's finances for about a year or two. And he reset everything. He's gonna this and show them how to save money and this and this. But he basically took the approach that he came in to show them, not to punish anybody, but just to show them how to do it the right way. Because like I said before, the comptroller, when he came and checked the finances of the town, he said, "Dude, you just guys are not doing it the wrong way." He said, "I haven't found anything illegal, illegalities or misspending. It's just you're not keeping your records properly, right?" And so when the Frank Sinatra came for the Board of Education, he was really there, in my opinion, to help out. He did not come; he came to help and show them how to do things and revamp and whatever. And he stayed for what 2 years, maybe 3 years, maybe. And he set the books and set the house order, and then he left. And then once he was gone, they kind of went right back to doing some of the things that he said they should not be doing, especially paying legal fees to the board attorney, where they just was getting a flat $1 million fee. And Frank Sinatra said, "Why are you paying him so much money? You should pay him as needed, right? You don't just give him $1 million and say whatever. What if you give him $1 million, but he only does $200,000 worth of work?" Right? And but that's the kind of stuff that Elouise is talking about. But when when Tony Wells got elected mayor, I don't remember anybody coming in to review the finances like that, because Fahim Raouf was still there. I understand he's maybe not there right now, currently in 2026, but this is all back in what 2000. What Tony Wells was in there? What this is like that third, fourth term. 12 years. This is like 2000, 2013, 2014. Yeah, and Fahim Raouf was there. So yeah, I don't remember the state coming. So what she's saying is she did what her due diligence. She got things. She got the information, and she called the proper authorities, and they sent her correspondence saying we're going to do something. But as she said, she doesn't know how to do that. So once again, it comes down to the enforcement of stuff, and that's where a lot of the time problem happens. Yeah, what good is calling the cop if they ain't gonna come and put it? So let me try. There we go.
Running for mayor again. This will be his fourth term if he is elected. And that's about what happened.
Except that you were also sued by the town, right?
And yeah,
For being a vexatious, but they didn't use that term, requester. The headline said senior citizens sued rights.
yeah, the township filed a complaint against me and said I asked for too many public records. So what happened is when I got the complaint, I filled it out and took it to the courthouse. And then I found out about someone read about what happened, and the American Civil Liberties Union came in to my aid, and my attorney, they had a caller named C.J. Griffin. It really helped me, and the township dropped the complaint.
Sometimes, as we know, it's hard to do this alone. Our next speaker is.
I want to pause that. Yeah, like I said, they did. They tried to press her, and that was just on that. To tell you, they sent the cop over again when she tried to run for mayor with the petition, right? So I mean, yeah, you know, you talk about senior citizen, little old lady said a vexatious requester. That's big language. That's big words for you, baby. She's vexing. But so yeah, so Elouise downplayed it a little bit, but that's how she does. You know, she seems very self-deprecating, which is why when you see as I saw, you know, the response to her from elected officials, sitting council members, and others, cops, and people who are aligned with the current mayor or the former mayor, she's just wilding out like, well, she's not hurting anybody. She's just asking for information. But they were like, "Yeah, she's the enemy." Yeah, but she wasn't scared though. She was not scared. And so, like I said, I want to take a look at her and listen to her, man, because we always talk about strong, intelligent Black woman, and you get this image in your mind of like Queen Latifah, right? Some you know, not I won't say big, but you know, some large, you know, loud Black woman, right? That's the stereotype, big and loud, whatever. But once again, you look at her, that's Elouise McDaniel, you know, old Black woman doing big things, and then she got recognized for it. She's gonna be in that moderator's book, right? About freedom of information. She called it FOIA, Freedom of Information Act, which is the national act on locally, you know, it's basically the sunshine law, right? And I'm gonna try to fast forward to where they got after everybody introduced themselves, they asked a little about when did you know, the type of what's the word I'm looking for? Resistance that some of the people ran into when they made their open request, because they did get resistance, right? Because you know, like I said, Larry Hammond says, power concedes nothing, and it's not supposed to, right? And so when you ask them something, they don't want to give it to you, even though they should or they have to. They'll go out of their way not to give it to you, and then they'll be mean about it too. You know, which is the extra kicker. You know, you deny me my rights, but then you're like offending me, right? Trying to sue me and trying to break me. The woman there in the middle, they tried to break her pockets because she lived in the affluent community, you know, and they charging her for the papers, the copy, and she had the money. Luckily, she had the money, but she just had, you know, talk about strong, rich white woman. You know, people would say Karen or whatever, but I don't know if it's Karen because she was just doing about property and her right and whatever. But yeah, the money she's put out her pocket to do this, you know, pursue the information that she wanted.
Call for further civic engagement, getting to know the records keepers, how do they keep the records, and do this, you know, before you know something. And of course, the problem there is that most people don't even know this exists until they need something. But I think that's also just
the record keepers are in municipalities. It's a municipal clerk or your township clerk or your city clerk. Your city clerk, this is an American thing. It's not just Jersey. Your city clerk is the official keeper of records or record keeper, like she says. And like I said, technically speaking, the position is designed to not be political at all, right? To not take sides. You're just there to facilitate and represent the interests of everyone, the administration, the council, and especially the taxpayers. So that's how the job is supposed to be done. But in reality, because there's so much power and leverage to be had if you are an elected official, mayor, council president, whoever, business person who wants to do business, if you can control that clerk, you can control the paper trail, control the board. They're fast tracking stuff. You know, I mean, it's an integral position, right? In the municipalities, you have the mayor, the clerk, and the CFO. And that's what I've always, you know, this is my time as being a journalist. And I said, if you got you have the business administrator who's appointed by the mayor, the clerk who's appointed by the state, and the CFO who works for the town but is hired by the mayor and the council. As long as any municipality, I'm gonna say it doesn't matter who the mayor is, because the mayor sets the tone as the leader, the cheerleader, or whatever. But as long as you've got a good BA, business administrator, a good clerk, and a good CFO, your municipality will be fine in America. Right? So if you miss something is wrong in your municipality and the local government, it's three things you look for. But before your first thing is you go to the council or the mayor who are elected officials. But listen, you check the clerk, you check the BA, the business administrator, and you check the CFO. If there's something wrong with one of those three professional spots or determined spots, your municipality is not going to be good.
Plenty of people in government actually do want to help. I know that sounds hard to believe, but it's absolutely true. What about the hostility that you encountered? How did you deal with that, Elouise?
It was so bad. I was determined that I was going to help the citizens in Irvington because we have a large population of Haitians, and they didn't have a good command, or they do not have a good command of the English language. So they would come to me for help. And I was intimidated, harassed when the town found out that I was helping the Haitians. And they wanted to know what was said in the council meeting. And some of them wanted to know how they could help, but they couldn't do much because, like I said, they didn't have a good command of the English language. But I didn't stop. I went to different organizations, and I read up on a lot of things I pulled up on the internet, and I just went on by myself.
All right. Now, Elouise, take it.
Listen, kudos to Elouise, but she's really downplaying it and soft pedaling the hostility that she encountered based off what she was doing, which was not really harming nobody physically. But listen, I mean, you look at her, you see, she's a slight. She said she's 86 years old today in 2026. So we're talking about maybe 10 years ago. So she was in the 60s and 70s, late 60s, late 60s and 70s when she was doing all these different things. And younger, physically larger, Queen Latifah type, elected officials, male and female, bumping her, pushing her around, right? Making her feel unwelcome, right? I mean, it was really, like I said, she really is not giving you a good sense of how, like I said, it's vitriol, right? It's like, you're the enemy, and the enemy gets no quarter. And the question becomes, is she really the enemy, or is she just a concerned taxpayer, citizen, right? And then does being concerned taxpayer and citizen make you the enemy? Perhaps it does. This is America. But they really did try to. You'll tell you they pressed her hard. They really did. They really did. And she's, like I said, she's downplaying it because that's Elouise. But and then in terms of what she was saying about the Haitians, listen, to me, Irvington, New Jersey is large, very large, and in my opinion, probably majority Haitian population, immigrant Haitian population. This is America, it's an immigrant country and immigrant communities. And so a lot of times when immigrants come, they congregate in one spot and become friendly, whatever. Go to Jersey City and you got lots and lots of Indians, Southeast Asians, right? Like in New York, you had the Italians, Germans, and Jews, Eastern European Jews and Sicilians and things like that, and Irish, right? Everywhere. And so they congregate, and that still goes on to this day. And Irvington is one of the places where the Haitians have congregated, and they're strong. But because they're not always legal, or because they're not always active, because you work with so immigrants, to me, whatever, they don't really they don't know or understand American democracy yet. right? And so you want to pull the switches because every group, once they realize they have the numbers, everybody wants representation, right? They want power, and that's what it comes down to. Yeah, it's enough of us. We should be running stuff, unless there's somebody else who doesn't want you to run it, because they want to run. Once again, like Larry Ham said, power concedes nothing, and not just white power, but it's any power structure that feels like something is coming along to try to remove, inhibit, or take away that power, and they will get this hostility that they're talking about with an open represent. And so, yeah, I wanted to keep this short because once again, it's Cinco de Mayo, and I wanted to just keep it all short. But I wanted to introduce you a little bit to who Elouise is and why I like Elouise. Is that the only time? Is it the last thing Elouise had to say? That was cool. But this video is of the 2026 Sunshine. It's called the Sunshine Festival. It took place in Washington, D.C. And it happens every year. And they invited Elouise there. She's talking like that.
More transparently to our communities. Right. I think we want to open it up to questions now. There are 2 microphones down here if anybody has questions.
Yeah, I like Elouise.
Thank you all. Good morning. Thanks for sharing your incredible stories with us this morning. I'm Eric Ferrero from the Fund for Investigative Journalism, and I'm wondering if you all could just share a little bit about this. I know varies state to state, how much you had to pay to get the records you were after, and whether one strategy these agencies used to try to box you out was pricing of the records.
Yes.
When I made the open public record request in New Jersey, we didn't have to pay for it. We go through the township first, and if they don't give you the records, you can send to the local government public affairs, and they would respond. Like I said, sometimes it was months, and sometimes you didn't even get a response.
Yeah, I wanted to play that part because that is significant. In New Jersey, you don't got to pay. You don't have to pay. I mean, sometimes in the copy, and they say, "Oh, if you're going to copy, you got to pay for the copies," but you don't have to pay for it. It's free in New Jersey. The woman in the middle, I would like to let you listen to her. This is about Elouise, not her, but she told you in her town, which is affluent, upper class white community, right? Because she got money. Her and her husband, they got money where they live, and they made it as expensive as possible to get public information. You want to request? Okay, you better be prepared to pay for it. And she was, and she had a lot of money to spend, but that must mean she got deep pockets, and she was committed to it. And I give her credit for that. Because, boy, the average person would have stopped at the first one, but she did not. But yeah, so that's also the other thing that I wanted to do about showing you guys about Elouise, and also showing highlighting her thing. Like I said, I want her to be the next episode. Like I said, it's 5 days out. I mean, a week, 7 days out from the May 12th elections in Irvington, Newark, and other parts of New Jersey. I think there's a primary election too. And so in November, maybe. I'm not sure. But this is what it takes, man. Like I said, everybody's worried about SCOTUS and the Voting Rights Act and da. But listen, to have a democracy, if that's what we really have, because I tell you, based off of how Black Americans who are descended from Black Africans who were kidnapped, raped, robbed, tortured, and enslaved here in America, right? You can't tell me it's been in a democracy. We've been in a democracy, but that's not our experience, right? Perhaps now it is, but even then they're trying to curtail it. That's what people are scared of with this Voting Rights Act stuff. They're going to go back to the poll tax and go back to this. And listen, America and American politics is a numbers game. If you are and this is why it was so bad what happened down in the South to Black Americans descended from Black Africans who were kidnapped and raped, robbed, tortured, and enslaved. It was the institutional disenfranchisement, right? Because we had the numbers, always had the numbers, because they brought us over here to work and didn't pay us either, right? 200 years. And but they always had the numbers, but they didn't want those numbers to count. That's why the 3/5 clause exists in the United States Constitution, right? Because the northern states who had less slaves said, wait a minute, we're not just gonna make them population because you got more people. And the South is going, hey, we got people. They're going, no, they're slaves. They're going, let's kill people. And they go, no, we're not going to count them as one whole person because that would give you too much power. So we'll count them as 3/5 of a person, a white man, a person. And that's the 3/5 clause. So that really says in America, at its foundation, and still to this day, in many cases, Black persons, Black man, Black person, Black American, descendant of Black Africans that were kidnapped, raped, robbed, tortured, and enslaved, were not considered human beings, equal to a human being, didn't have the same value, especially not in politics and censuses, right? And so perhaps that has changed. And that's also what this Supreme Court decision is about, because nothing is static or means it stays the same. Everything evolves. So here we are, what, 100, 200 years maybe away from 1776, when the founding fathers did the Declaration of Independence and formed this country, right? By 1778. And so things are different, but still the same. But those differences are relevant. And, Eclipse and Spotlight, yes, and what it's about timely and relevant. So situations and circumstances, they evolve. They don't necessarily change, but they evolve and they have different meanings. So we have to always adapt and evolve along with them. And then also with this gerrymandering of the district and the maps, that just shows you the fight for power that's going on in this country right now. Political power, economic power, social power, right? That's going on right now. And just like power concedes nothing, white people feel a loss of that power and they don't want to lose that power, or they feel like other groups are getting ahead. Black people feel that way too. Everybody feels that way because that's really competition, right? This is capitalism. And so that stuff that's really what it's about: power and influence and numbers. And in America, it's about numbers and votes. And so if you change those voting maps and you put what used to be a majority Black district into a mixed district with, whites, Latinos, Indians, and whatever, all of a sudden that it's like coalition governments in different other countries, right? You don't have a Black representation in this Black community. You've got, a portion of this larger community that happens to have Black voters in it. But even then, another question for another issue, another time, another podcast that definitely is coming up. This whole idea that we had these Black officials, but were they really doing anything for Black people? Right? Barack Obama and Kamala Harris said, we're here for everybody. We're not here just for the Black people. Right? So don't help the Black people, even though you want to piggyback off of all the Black struggle and Black experience, right? So come on, man. It's not clear. But Elouise McDaniel stood up for Black American homeowners, taxpayers, citizens, and residents of Irvington, New Jersey during the time she was there. And I'm glad to see that she was being recognized for it and appreciated for it, because that's what it takes. Everybody's got to be like Elouise, right? That's what it takes to have a functioning democracy. Even like I said, I don't think it is. But once again, her interview is available on YouTube at the 2026 Sunshine Festival. You can go check that out. I'm going to put it once I edit this all up. I'll put in links to the to whatever stories I have about Elouise and about that, and also about the YouTube page. But then also, like I said, there's an election coming up in 7 days on May 12th in New Jersey, and I am very interested. And one of the people actually, involved in the Irvington, directly relates to the Elouise McDaniel stuff, right? So that's what's up. That's cool. It's Chris Black. It's Eclipse Spotlight. It's eclipse.biz website. It's C5 Black 25 social media. You check me out. It's all Black emoji, just smiling at you like this, but just all Black. And see you later.